And the countdown is starting. Anybody have Thanksgiving plans? Anybody ready to have some turkey? I'm looking for comments, actually. All right, so let's.
This is weird because everything's kind of backwards.
Yeah, true. Isn't it?
Yeah.
All right, so let's see why we can't post comments. Okay, let's learn more. Oh, boy. It came up naturally the last time.
I'm putting one in.
Okay, good. See if it works. Yeah, it's a private chat. So let's turn comments on. Perfect. Okay, we're good. This should be guests can view comments. All right, let's do it. Are you heading to San Francisco? Kurt, are you heading to San Francisco?
No.
Okay, that was just the comments.
Yeah.
All right. All right, we've got some people in the comments section. Can you see?
I can't see comments, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, you're going to be the star of the show.
Oh, I can see comments now. Yep.
Okay, good.
My favorite Irish coffee is in San Francisco, though.
Some of my favorite restaurants are in San Francisco.
Of course.
Yeah. A lot of people are not crazy about traveling to San Francisco anymore. Just believe that there's a lot of, like we have in Florida, there are just a lot of individuals who have decided to live here that can't afford it and live on the streets. It's kind of sad.
Hate that.
Yeah. Okay, we're on the nose.
There it goes. It's 3 o'clock.
I had over 45 people show up. Last week we had 80, and this week we can't get people to show. No, that's not good.
How many we got in now?
I'm showing play a sound when guests arrive, and there are no banned guests. And I spent all morning preparing with how this starts. There we go. Jeff Morris is here.
Oh, good.
Tammy is here.
Yep, I see Tammy.
So do you see how the captions are delayed?
Yes.
So that's the sound delay that we're also getting.
Were we to start at 3? We're just going to wait a few minutes?
Yes. And this is being recorded, so it will go live once we end the broadcast.
Got it.
So the beautiful thing about this is it notifies everyone who planned to attend and also who is in your network.
Outstanding. Okay, good.
So let's give one more minute and then have you, I'll introduce you in a moment. Well, we're going to get started. And today's topic will feature an executive recruiter known as a Forbes #1 recruiter in the state of Texas. And that would be Kurt Vandemotter. I am DB Wienke, and I'm hosting this LinkedIn Live, a new feature available to beta users that have an account or a LinkedIn profile on the platform LinkedIn. Our topic for today is how to chart your course within the Great Resignation of 2021. And Kurt, would you take a moment and speak to our audience about your background?
Absolutely. Thanks, Stevie, for the opportunity to talk to you and the audience today. My name is Kurt Vandemotter, and I'm an executive search consultant, retained search executive. and the name of my company is Linked Executive Search. I came out of corporate America in the beverage industry with Pepsi and Dr. Pepper 7-Up for 20 years. And then I went into technology with AT&T, and I did some startup technology stuff. About 16 years ago, I entered into the recruiting industry. And I think one of the biggest differentiators, DB, about my background versus other recruiters that candidates come into touch with every day is that I was a hiring manager. I was not an HR executive. I was a sales, marketing, and operations executive. So I go about hiring in a very process detailed approach. And that is the biggest differentiator in my model versus the competition.
Well, for those of you who have either worked with me or have known, are part of my network, you know that my company has been in business since 2009. And my focus is to optimize LinkedIn profiles for not only individuals, but also work company pages and do content creation and curation for LinkedIn exclusively. Let's get started with our topic today. And many of you are familiar with the turnover tsunami that began in April and peaked during August with nearly 4 million professionals leaving the workforce. The flex hours primarily had been unavailable in the pre-pandemic work environment. And now, based upon the length of the pandemic environment, Harvard Business Review has created and released a study about the statistics of the burnout factor and the mental exhaustion that many companies and professionals and leaders have experienced because of the duration. Many people, professionals, are preferring remote work. According to a PwC survey that was released in September, over 55% of the workforce really wants a 3-day work week if they must attend a business based building. And according to a McKinsey study, the culture has begun to disseminate and disappear, which is an unclear path forward in the hybrid environment of having some professionals work from a remote destination and having to report to work inside the building. Let's get to the heart of the matter and rely on Kurt's expertise. The first question that I have for you, Kurt, is how would a professional who is displaced or dissatisfied with their current employer, how would they engage a recruiter like you?
Great question, DB. So as I mentioned in the beginning, I'm a retained search executive, and let's just do a real quick history of what kind of search executives there are, because regardless of who's on the call, everybody needs to understand there's internal recruiters, and those are the recruiters that work for companies. There's contingent recruiters, and those are the recruiters get hired by companies, and they don't get paid anything unless they bring the right candidate. And then there's retained search executives like myself, and we get paid a retainer. We're exclusive up front. So the biggest myth out there right now is that I can remember back in my Pepsi days, I had a Rolodex of 4 or 5 recruiters that I worked with and called and checked in with on a regular basis. They were in my industry. They knew my background. But today, the best thing a candidate can do in order to engage with a recruiter is to actually have a dynamic LinkedIn profile. That's where the rubber meets the road. And there's really no other way around it. Most recruiters don't take a lot of time to engage with candidates during their search process because they don't get paid by candidates, they get paid by companies. So unless you have the specific experience, you work for a specific company, or you've had a title, or you've had something in your background that is relevant to a recruiter, they'll reach out to you and then engage and ask you to be a part of it. Comes right back to the LinkedIn profile. That LinkedIn profile's got to be smack.
Let's have a follow-up question about where you have found some of your some of your rubber meets the road. What I find is that most leaders have been lifted upwards in their management career over time because they're performers. What do you recommend for the new normal of hunting while currently employed?
Absolutely. Finding a job is a full-time job, Dee. There's no question about it. But for everybody that's on this call, or anybody that listens to this in the future, it's a full-time job. But I don't encourage you to quit your full-time job in order to go do this, to look for a job. If you're dissatisfied with your current employer, what you need to do is start to schedule time in your schedule. Make time in order to do the networking. Make time to to be available to take the calls, to open up the doors, do that exploration, to sit at your desk and just brainstorm, to do the research that's necessary in order to conduct a search. And so it's really important that candidates don't just quit their job. There are a lot of jobs out there today, but companies are taking a little longer than normal to hire. There's a lot of consternation in the market still as far as what's going to happen with the pandemic and when are we really going to go back to the office? How are we going to get employees to come back to the office? What incentives are we going to have to put in place? What are the changes that are going to have to occur? And so if you've got a job, it's a great time to look for a new job, but you've got to do it in a very confidential fashion. So as you start to open up your network, you have to have very confidential conversations with people, leaders, executives that you may have worked with in the past, to just let them know that you're actively looking, but it's confidential.
Well, let's kind of talk through how a typical search is done from your point of view. And I also want to touch upon the unpublished positions that are not being advertised.
Right. Well, I don't know the number of positions that are actually publicized, or companies that are posting versus are just looking and utilizing their own network, or the board may be discussing opportunities. But there's no question about it. It used to be in the old days that I could go out and tell people that I was a sales and marketing executive. And back in the day, somebody might have said, well, IBM's hiring. And then somebody might tell me, well, Aetna's hiring and Pepsi's hiring. Well, those are three completely different industries. So telling people what you do anymore is not nearly as effective as identifying target companies. And so what I really encourage candidates to do is to do that heavy brainstorming and to identify the target companies that they're interested in. They might be in the category or in the vertical that they're in currently, so that's companies that they respect. Or in some cases, there's people that are trying to build a bridge between what they're doing today and they want to move into a different industry. That requires just as much or more research to identify, what companies within that particular industry that they want to move to or are doing and what's going on. But this research can't be taken lightly, and there's only one person that can do it, and that's a candidate.
Well, let's talk a little bit about how, if in my world of helping executives prepare their package. By preparing their package, I'm talking about their resume, I'm talking about their LinkedIn profile being optimized with keywords. If you're recommending a pivot from one industry to another, how can that pivot take place with the position? If I'm currently in consumer packaged goods and I want to move into healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
How would you recommend that I do a quiet announcement whether I am currently employed or I have been furloughed? How do I answer those um, opportunities for my target companies?
Right. So let's just go to the basics, and you've already hit on a couple of them. But the very first thing that I think that candidates that are getting ready to go through transition or are in transition, a great exercise for them to do is to take that piece of paper and divide it into 4. What are the things that you're good at in the top left? What are the things that you're not good at? What are the things you like to do on the left bottom? And what are the things that you don't like to do on the right bottom? Getting to know yourself and being able to describe yourself in these kinds of terms is going to be really critical if you're getting ready to leave an opportunity, because as you explore and you're trying to move, you mentioned you're trying to move from consumer packaged goods into healthcare. You have to be able to build a bridge. And I literally mean you have to be able to build a bridge of helping that company understand why and how you can be a great value to their organization. You haven't worked in healthcare before. And so you're going to have to tell and work with that organization. First, you have to do the homework and the heavy lifting to understand what are the biggest problems that they're trying to solve. What keeps them up at night? Who are their biggest competitors? Are these business-related issues, or are these governmental-related issues that they're having and that they're trying to solve? Depends on what part of the organization you're trying to move into, whether that's operations or HR or whatever it might be. But the bottom line is you really have to do the heavy lifting to understand those things, because it's then that you can go into your background and identify the times that you've done those things. That's the bridge you have to build. And it's brick by brick by brick. It's heavy lifting, and it's the only way to do it. The second thing is to look at a job description. If you're trying to leave a particular industry and move into another industry, is look at job descriptions and highlight those key words that are relevant or similar to the things that you've done in your past. And then I think it's really important for you to have discussions with people in that category. So even though you might be trying to leave consumer packaged goods, and let's say that you're trying to go to pick a pharmaceutical company as an example, that's often something that people want to do. I highly encourage you to reach into your network and find those people that work for those pharmaceutical companies that you're connected to, or that you can get connected to quickly, and start to have a discussion about what it is that they do every day, what keeps them up at night, what is the biggest problem that they've got. Because you never want to take that information into an interview that says, yeah, I know what the biggest problem you're trying to solve, obviously. But when you have that information, it gives you the ability to answer those questions in a very dynamic way, because you can relate to the things that they're trying to accomplish.
So it almost sounds as if you need to solve the challenges for that next target company that you personally know your weaknesses and your strengths. But it almost sounds like you have to have a little bit of those key performance indicators or KPIs, metrics, analytics that demonstrate you can make that bridge from your current industry to your next industry.
Yep, no question. And so that is an incredible question, and we get that all the time. The KPIs and those key indicators have got to be in your LinkedIn profile. That's the absolute must. They have to be in your LinkedIn profile. The days of telling people what you do is over. We've got to tell people how and what you've done, how you've done it. What are the key metrics? What are the measurements that you've had? And as you identify and target other companies that you're looking for, they too are going to have KPIs and key measurements that they're using, and you have to try to figure out where the alignment is. But if you don't do that heavy lifting up front, then it'll bounce on the back end, because you won't be able to have an engaging conversation with the hiring managers that you're trying to get to. I want to come back to one of the things that you brought up earlier, and that is you talked about those jobs that are unpublished. That is a really, really key piece of your search. The thing that candidates need to do as they go through a search, no matter what level of the organization they're trying to move in or between, they need to keep the blinders off, okay? These blinders, that information that we know as we get older and as we move through our career, we know a lot. And so I want candidates to consider keeping those blinders off. I can't tell you how many times, it's not on a daily basis, but certainly annually, at least once or twice, I will send a candidate in for an interview with an organization, and coming out, the CEO will say, that candidate's awesome, and we're going to put him in the VP of Strategic Partnerships. And I'm like, I didn't even know you had that job open. Well, we didn't tell you, and we've just determined that we need to make that hire, and Jack that you just brought in is a great guy to do it. So if you look for only those advertised jobs, you only look for those opportunities that have been published, then you're missing probably 50% of the jobs today.
Really?
There's a lot of jobs that haven't been posted. There's a lot of jobs, companies don't post and pray. So where they do that, and then it doesn't work, and then they're done with that, and they have to go find a recruiter or somebody else to help them fill that job. But the number of jobs that are unposted or unadvertised, I'm talking to about 6 different companies right now about C-level positions, head of HR, CEO for 2 different companies, CIO, COO for a couple of companies. These are jobs that haven't even opened up yet. They haven't been announced. The company hasn't decided to make that, to put somebody in that role yet, but they're talking to recruiters about filling these jobs. And once the companies decide that they are going to, they're likely not going to be posted, because once a recruiter gets hired, the thing that we don't do, most recruiters don't do, is they don't post and pray. They don't post it and pray that they find the right candidate. I may put an announcement out there to try to get some interest stirred amongst people that I want to talk to. So it's not a fake ad, but it gets people to say, hey, I'd like to know more about that. I'm raising my hand for that. And it gives me the opportunity to have a dialogue with people that might know the people that I'm trying to get to. So it's not a bait and switch, but the conversations are different than they were a year or 2 ago.
So let's take a moment and talk about the LinkedIn Recruiter module that you use daily as a tool to find those candidates for the unadvertised positions.
Right. So LinkedIn developed a product called LinkedIn Recruiter. They did this a long time ago. They charge recruiters, I say a lot of money to use the product. Let's describe what it is first. So what it is it's LinkedIn Recruiter is a product that sits on top of LinkedIn. So the LinkedIn product foundation is the millions, billions of people that are using LinkedIn. That's the database. And then what LinkedIn Recruiter does is they built a separate set of APIs that connect into that database. Now, let it be known that the organization that helped LinkedIn do this was a company that many of you have heard of before, and that is Korn Ferry. And so that's a worldwide recruiting organization. Companies, large companies, small companies like me, we don't keep databases of candidates anymore. That's expensive. And the minute you change your job, that data is not even relevant anymore. And so we all use and rely on LinkedIn quite heavily. But when I'm using LinkedIn Recruiter, you as a candidate cannot see me, okay? And I mean that literally. There's no way that you as a candidate can see me. I know that there's a section that says, these are the people that have viewed your profile in the last 24 hours. And sometimes it's a, confidential recruiter or something. That's not me, I guarantee it. We're not there, we're invisible. And the reason is I spend, like I said, a lot of money, and I look at any given day, I might look at 150, 300 to 300 profiles. If everybody that I clicked on, every profile that I looked at knew that I was looking at their profile and started sending me messages about, hey, I saw you looked at my profile, I'm interested in talking to you, I'd never get through a day. So that's the reason that is there. But the best thing that you can do as a candidate to engage with recruiters, and DB will coach you on this, and it's a proven rule, is to give, if you're actively looking for a job, DB, put your contact information, your email address, and your phone number in your LinkedIn profile, because that is a game changer for a recruiter that clicks on your profile and I want to talk to you. I only have one option, and that's to send you an in-mail. I still don't have your contact information, even if you say you're open to new opportunities, unless we're connected. So put your contact information in there, make it easy for recruiters to reach you and start to have those conversations. It's a game changer. I would bet, DB, and I know that this is a crazy number, I would bet that probably only about 2 or 3% of the unemployed active candidates that are actively looking put their contact information in their LinkedIn profile. And they're missing out on so many opportunities.
Let's change it up a little bit and speak to how you view inside LinkedIn Recruiter, an individual who has used the green frame on their LinkedIn photo, which says open to work.
Correct. So you have two opportunities. When you click that open to work opportunity, you can either put what I call the wreath around your head. That tells everybody that you're open to work. Even if they don't even they're not a recruiter, everybody in your network will know that you're looking for a new opportunity. And so it's a way for you to both visually and to tell recruiters and other people that you're actively looking for a new opportunity. You can, if you're a passive candidate but actively looking, so that means you're working passively but you're actively looking for a new job, then you can click that button, but it only tells recruiters that use the LinkedIn recruiting product that you're open to new opportunities. When I'm searching for candidates, I have the opportunity to select a couple of options when I want to sort through candidates, and one of those is to I can click on candidates that are open to work. I can click on candidates that are more likely to reply to my messages. LinkedIn tracks you as a candidate. When you don't reply to messages, then they put you in a box to recruiters that says that these are the candidates that are less likely to reply to your message. So those are a couple of key pieces. I don't really have an opinion on the green, the wreath or not. If you're a passive candidate and you're working for a company today, that may not be the best way to start your search, because it will tell everybody in your network that looks at your profile that you're actively looking. And that may not be something you're ready to tell the world yet.
You and I happen to agree on the green frame, which is from talking to you, talking to other executive recruiters, that the green frame actually reduces your ability to negotiate compensation. It's known that you're not employed. It's known that you may be running out of your severance package. So how could you comment on that?
Well, I don't know that I 100% agree with that, because I think that when it gets to the final end and you're at the end zone and you're negotiating your package and the company wants you, I think the same rule stands as it always has. And that is that if I try to negotiate on salary of the candidate, even though they might have been out for even the last 8 months or a year, when they left their last role, if they were making $100,000 or $1 million, and I try to negotiate them down to $70,000 or $500,000 instead of $1 million, I'm pretty sure that candidate is going to continue to actively look. They've spent the last year, they've got a really tight pipeline. They've got a lot of opportunities out there. They've stirred up a lot of activity. So they may take that opportunity, but within 8 months to a year, they may leave because a better opportunity comes their way and they're willing to pay. This is really not the time for for companies to shortchange candidates in the negotiations. And so I haven't witnessed it. I haven't seen it yet in the last year. Now, if somebody hasn't worked for the last 6 months or a year, then they do lose a lot of their negotiations. But I still encourage companies to go in with a strong offer that makes the candidate feel really good about the offer and the opportunity.
Kurt, we're at time. Is there anything more that you would like to add? Everyone is certainly welcome to connect with each with Kurt and with me on LinkedIn simply by sending us an invitation request. But Kurt, any closing remarks for you?
Well, as I said earlier, keep the blinders off, everyone. That's the biggest mistake that we make, is we assume that we know the answer. We assume that we don't like the brand, or we assume something that's not true. So I encourage candidates to take the blinders off. The only time that you have to turn down a job offer is after you've gotten a job offer. And so when you start turning down opportunities before you get that job offer, you're probably turning down an opportunity too early.
One of the things that I'd like to add is that many times my candidates who are still in the stealth mode or are in the active mode of seeking a position, that they get into a dark corner. And that dark corner is easy to stay in. And if there is a daily game plan that I develop with my candidate, my client, that tends to avoid the negativity that comes. Any point of view for you, Kurt, before we wrap up?
Yep, that's it. Great job today, DB. I hope that people will continue to engage with us. And if you've got those hard questions, we're here to answer and help in any way we can.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Kurt.
Cheers.
We're done. Everybody enjoy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Be safe.